morning, it's October 8th, and this is To My Liberal Friends. Well, the news keeps telling us there's no end in sight for the ending of the government shutdown. 3 Democrats have crossed the line to vote yes, John Fetterman, Angus King, and Catherine Cortez Masto, and the Republicans are working on some others to break the stalemate. They need 8 Democrats to vote yes, assuming the Republican Rand Paul continues to vote no because he dislikes all CRs. The question is, where would they get these votes? Which Democrats might be willing to break ranks and open the government? Well, there's a list of some candidates, 5 of them. Gary Peters from Michigan is one candidate. He's retiring at the end of this term, so there's not much way of political retribution that can be thrown at him. He voted yes in March and has a consistent record of wanting to keep the government operating. Michigan's become a swing state, and even though Peters is retiring, he would like to see the seat remain in the Democratic column. He's been part of a group trying to work out a compromise on the ACA tax credits that expire at the end of the year. Another Democrat that's retiring is Jeanine Shaheen from New Hampshire. She's been a consistent no, but at the same time, she has said there's an opportunity for both sides to talk to each other and address the issue. Her colleague from New Hampshire would more than likely follow Shaheen's lead and vote should she decide to break ranks. I'm talking about Maggie Hassan. She has said we need a bipartisan path forward that protects people's health and prevents them from premiums from doubling. John Ossoff of Georgia is a particular interest to Republicans. He's running for re-election in a state that leans Republican. If the polling starts to show that Democrats are getting blamed, he could move his position very quickly. It'd be a matter of survival. And finally, we have Dick Durbin, the aging senator from Illinois, who's also retiring. He would be the toughest to get, and yet Republicans keep talking to him. He was a yes vote in March, and he could be the one that moves in the end to give Chuck Schumer cover. He will only move if Schumer gives him the nod to do so. So that's the political math in the Senate. But what about the issue itself? Is this an issue the Democrats can really hang their future on, or is it a manufactured one that they will somehow hope resonate with the public? I suspect it's the latter, and I'll tell you why. Democrats are demanding that Republicans extend enhanced Obamacare subsidies that Democrats passed in 2021 for a pandemic emergency that ended 2 years ago. The 10-year cost of this income transfer to health insurers is roughly $450 billion. Read that. This money goes to the insurance companies. The tacit assumption in Washington is that voters want the subsidies to continue, and the Republicans who resist bailing out Barack Obama's dysfunctional health program are setting up the GOP to take a political shellacking. The media invokes a Kaiser Family Foundation poll that says 78% of American voters support extension, including 50% of Republican voters. Well, the same poll says that 61% of the public has heard little or nothing about the expiring subsidies, which suggests it isn't the defining political issue of our time. Another question is whether voters understand that only the COVID boost is expiring and that generous subsidies are still going to remain. Another poll this year from the Paragon Health Institute found some interesting numbers. It found that 53% of voters supported allowing the COVID bonus subsidies to expire. A survey from the Center for Excellence in Polling was even more definitive, with 65% of voters supporting ending, quote, federal health care payments for higher income people while returning to pre-COVID rates for lower income people, end quote. That's very interesting. This is the part of the debate Democrats don't want you to focus on or understand. When they expanded the subsidies, they removed the income cap on Obamacare subsidies and allowed money to flow to some of the more affluent households. In some cases, they could be earning as much as $500,000 a year. This is not information Democrats want you to hear about. Remember, it was Democrats that expanded the subsidies, and it was Democrats that voted to have them expire at the end of the year. But once people get a test of a generous government benefit, they don't want to give it up. Under the old rules, you could get a subsidy if your family income, based on size, did not exceed 400% of the federal poverty level. If you look up those numbers in your own state, you'll find that this means a lot of people earning 6-figure incomes are getting a pretty generous subsidy. That's a pretty good deal for those people. As I mentioned in an earlier podcast, that means that many are not taking their employer-provided health care because it's cheaper for them to use the government handout. This is the goal of Democrats: get people used to the subsidy and then try to make them dependent on it. The Congressional Budget Office estimates that without Obamacare, most people could obtain better coverage at lower premiums. Most enrollees could buy, quote, a comprehensive major medical policy with lower deductibles or wider provider networks, end quote, than Obamacare, as premiums as much as 60% lower than the lowest cost Obamacare plans. The most instructive recent political precedent is the child tax credit. Recall that Democrats exploited the pandemic to convert the program into a monthly check for parents. Democrats later tried to make the handout permanent, but failed. Democrats tried to use the benefit of a wedge issue. They threatened Republicans with it. But to their dismay, they found that voters understood that the pandemic was temporary and doesn't justify enormous permanent expansions of the entitlement state. The Obamacare subsidies flow to millions of fewer voters than the child credits. It's time to rip the Band-Aid off and for people to realize exactly what these subsidies are designed to do. They're designed to put you on some form of government aid and keep you there permanently. That means you have to vote for big government and big government spending. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening.